Hello, everybody. Happy 2025. Asha and Nikita back together in
Yeah.
effect. And you guys probably saw the poll asking what did you want us to talk about. And I think we ended between 18 and 20 votes. And the largest percentage of you all who voted said you wanted Asha and I to talk about the Unity Task Force, which I'm now seeing on at least the Hampton Roads website. They're calling the Unity Task Group, which is we'll get into it, but that I guess is more fitting because they weren't a force for anything. But
No, no.
but yeah, so we're gonna unfold. We're gonna let you in. It was kind of an exclusive group, tell you what was going on. Hey, Kelly.
Hello.
But I don't know, Asha, did you want to give any life updates? I feel like we were on our winter hiatus.
Oh yeah, I've been on such a hiatus, y'all. So, hi everybody. Yeah, life just been lifing and the processing just keeps processing. And so I know that even personally I had promised some videos that never came out, but I'm getting a little better. I think even the video that I was promising to put out, the video itself put me in a dark place. Like, cuz I realized what messaging like that did to me as just a woman in that system, and I just had to completely go off the grid. Um, I've been getting help. I've been telling people in the ICOC as a call group, I'm in therapy, y'all. I'm in therapy, but not just therapy. I'm seeing psychiatry too. So it's really helping. So it's good to um, see this little live stream icon on the screen again and to say hey to y'all. So, yep, that's all. Life been lifing.
Life has been lifing. Okay, so let's just dive into it. If you go on, is it like Disciples Today or whatever? They have a page about race relations. They call it race relations, and it just made me feel like, I'm sorry, what year is it? And I guess there's like a global unity task force or task group or something. But since Asha and I are going to be talking about our experiences specifically, excuse me, in the Unity Task Force, the Unity Task Group, and our local church, the Hampton Roads Church, I went to the Hampton Roads website. So let's look at it. We've got to bring the receipts. So, and you can see, you can reach it by hamptonroadschurch.com/unity if you wanted to look at it for yourself. They have a scripture here, Ephesians 4:2-6. Oh, yes, let's just get it out of the way now. Trigger warning. There could be references of scripture in this live stream. There could be references of SA. There could be references of violence, racially triggering conversation. Just enjoy all the trigger warnings, okay? I feel like my whole channel needs a trigger warning, but let's just put that out there. I always feel bad because I start to say things and in the middle of it, I'm like, oops, I should have warned you guys. So you should just know if you're around here to tread lightly. Okay, here we go. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. Unity Task Group, the mission statement. The Unity Group, in keeping with Ephesians 4:3, is committed to making every effort towards fostering unity of the Spirit generationally, culturally, and societally with love, empathy, and biblical convictions within the Hampton Roads Church. Following the example set by Jesus in partnership with elders and ministry leaders, we will listen, identify, and provide support to ministry leaders in order to help address the issues which may disrupt, including sin that threatens the harmony of our fellowship, while also celebrating that which unites us. Our mission is to create a welcoming environment where every member is valued and connected as equal parts of God's diverse family, ensuring that the gospel shines brightly to all peoples. We want to hear from you. Look at this. You can even submit your grievances and concerns. The Unity Group welcomes you to share your insights and experiences on cultivating unity, healing, and encouragement within our church community. Your reflections will be shared with all Unity Group members, ensuring your message is received with respect and compassion. Thank you for trusting us to listen and support you as we work together to reflect God's love and unity. So there you go, hamptonroadschurch.com/unity. If you feel so moved, why don't you guys just go ahead and leave some feedback there, and let them know what you think. But yes, I think it's also very fitting that you guys voted for the Unity Task Force and that this comment comes up during Black History Month. Got my shirt on from previous videos, lightly melanated, hella black, weird back. I was like, oh, let's get some continuity going. So let's see. Why and when was the task force started? Asha, you want to talk about how the task force came to be?
All right. Let's see. Did you write notes on that or you want me to freestyle it?
You can just freestyle it. I didn't have any. I mean, I just wrote, well, just that it was 2020 and what was going on and stuff.
Yeah, it was crazy. So, what was funny is that for whatever reason, I think the cult, the church, was kind of in a good space. They were doing this thing where they were pretending to be progressive and like they cared about us because that's what was working at the time. And it was literally, I feel like a few days before what happened with George Floyd. One of the evangelists did a lesson actually addressing some of the racial disparages, disparities going on. And it was like a breath of fresh air. He even did a joke. He said, I noticed that even me in my neighborhood where he lived, he said, if I see two white women walking down the street, I think, oh, look at those two friends going for a walk or jogging. But if I see two Black women, I think they're Jehovah Witnesses, Yeah. And because we were all brainwashed, we all giggled. But he was like being honest about what he thought and saying, I know that if I have these types of thoughts, that they're in the congregation and these are things we need to work on. We can't pretend like there aren't things that we think that impact our life. And because like as I retell that joke now, that's so messed up. But because we never talked about any of this stuff, it almost felt like a breath of fresh air. It was like, wow, you're acknowledging something, because we hadn't been allowed to acknowledge these things before. And there was a lot to acknowledge. And then, so he opened the door with that. And then George Floyd happened. So then everybody's like, good. Now can we address something real happening in real life? And so people started to feel empowered and get very vocal. And I wish I could find this, because the next week, the lesson was very different. The lesson was, whoa, 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 whoa. So some of you are starting to actually say there are issues broader or bigger than what I initially intended to acknowledge. Like if I could sum up the lesson, that's what it was. And it was like, these are your sisters and brothers. Don't like come vilifying them. And we're like, we're not vilifying. You open the door. Here's a big issue. So it was just the floodgates had opened. The floodgates had opened with everything that people had been holding back for years, and felt like they weren't comfortable to discuss in this environment. They now felt like they could discuss them. And they were not ready. They actually weren't ready, right? Because they were pretending. They liked to pretend that they care about people, and they weren't actually ready. And so, but once that door had opened and then George Floyd happened, they found it very hard to close it back. And so they decided, okay, apparently we do have some issues. And so they decided to put together a task force to deal with these things. So yeah, that's how I remember it.
And so I will say, for anyone who's not familiar with the ICOC structure or even where we live, although Asha and I were both in the Hampton Roads Church, there were different regions, different cities, and they had different leaders. They all kind of fell under one leader. They would come together and have leaders meetings. They were all pushing the same agenda, but we weren't. And a lot of times we would hear sermons with similar messages, but it would be delivered differently, give or take, because while they're robots, they're not clones. So, so I didn't hear that specific one. And I'm going to be honest, I was in 2020, my son was like 1.5, newly 2. I'm coming out of like postpartum fog. I'm exhausted. I had started, I think for years, which I didn't realize until I actually left. My former mother-in-law was like, "You've been bored for a long time, but you go with the status quo and you just think something's wrong with you." And so I say all of that to say, I don't know that I was listening much to the lessons anyway, because I was rolling my eyes all the time, just like, this is stupid, but I still thought this is the true church. And maybe and this is what they would tell you too, like, well, you're used to coming to church to receive. Now you go to church so you can give. And so because you're rehashing the same lessons over and over. Now we know it's to keep the conditioning going. But at the time, I was just like, this is boring. This is not for me. Why are we talking about this again? I am annoyed. I don't like the singing. The jokes are stupid. Like, but I have to be here. And then in my head, I'm discipling myself. Like, be spiritual. Isn't this supposed to be better is one day in your courts? Like, so I say all that to say, I don't really know what was being said. I just remember the internal noise being, this is a bunch of BS the whole time. This is boring. And also, what are we doing here? I remember feeling frustrated that they weren't talking about things a lot. I was one of those people when Asha was like, so people were getting, disgruntled. I had a couple of big Facebook posts that I think were felt church-wide, maybe even outside of the church, because I had Facebook friends elsewhere. The first one, was it George Floyd? Was it Ahmaud Arbery? I don't think, because Ahmaud was after George, right? And so I think it was maybe after Ahmaud's that I posted, oh, I'm going to get teary-eyed again. I can still see the picture. I wonder if I have a screenshot of it. I can still see the picture. It was me. My eyes were watery and wet. I was parked outside of my job, and I think I was about to go in. And I had just been crying because just at the weight. And now, like, having a son, and at the time being married to a Black man, my father, and just feeling like it was just so terrifying. Like, they can't even go for a walk. They can't even go for a jog. And nobody's saying anything. And I think I said something like that in that initial post. And then my first post was just sad. It was sad. I had some fiery posts later, but my first post was just heartbroken. Like, your silence is so loud. You guys can talk about all this other stuff. How do you not see us? Do you not hear us? And I think because it was sad and it was soft and it was heartfelt, oh, so many likes, so many Facebook likes, so many comments. Thank you, my sister, for speaking. Oh, it pains me. Thank you for sharing. If you go back and watch another video, was it February 2023, when we first started, about my experience of being a Black woman in the church, you'll see the evolution. I get more angry, the likes go down, I get confronted. We're not going to go into all of that. We're going to keep it centered around the task force, but I just kind of want to tell you guys what was going on at the time. Also, I forgot to mention that if you're interested just in general about like race and the church, we did a live back in 2023 with a good friend, Erica, on just in general, unity, diversity, and racism, and it has video clips from leaders all across the ICOC. So you can go check that out. But anyways, so you have me. There might have been a couple other people. I feel like it was mainly me. In terms of Black people just posting on Facebook, because I was just like, what the heck, man? We're getting gunned down on TV. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. And it just keeps coming. And I know media, right? Like, because even then in 2020, all these lists came out about how police violence had never stopped. But for whatever reason, maybe it was coronavirus distraction or something, like they just decided to televise it then. But it's one thing to know it's happening. It's another thing to have to watch it over and over again on your screen and on social media. They're showing these things without blur. Like, it was just insane. So you have me and a couple of other people like me who may be speaking out either publicly or in private. And then you had the other side where there were like white and Hispanic people, a few key players, who were just posting these wildly insensitive things. They should have complied. They blah, 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 blah. Remember, your allegiance is to God first. Like, just insensitive, just like, what? So with the bite model that, talks about information control and thought control, I'm sure the leaders were losing their minds, because it's like, we can't control what they're saying. We can't control what they're seeing. We can't control the conversations they're having. I know what we'll do. We'll have a unity task force. And people are saying that the leaders aren't responding enough, that they're not saying enough. But then on the other hand, we have other members that are saying that we're saying too much and we shouldn't even be entertaining the conversations. So I know what we'll do. We'll create a group, a little think tank. We'll bring these people in, some of the movers and shakers, and that will please everybody. That's what we'll do. And next, I was going to talk about what it was like to get invited. But Asha, did you have anything you wanted to say about any of that? Or even, I know you were in one meeting. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but.
Yeah, like you're right. It was already brewing with social media, just being more a part of people's lives and people just starting to post things. And, you always had those more unruly disciples, posting things and people trying to get everybody to calm down. Let's not get too involved. The solution to all of this at the end of the day is to make disciples, so it was already brewing. So this particular evangelist who did his lesson, I'm sure he did that because it was already happening, but he felt like it was in a controlled setting. And I do want to say that as good of a girl as I was not invited to the Unity Task Force. We'll talk about it, but I was invited to like a side meeting. And I think I was not invited because during this time I had already started to question stuff. I had decided to deliberately step down as a Bible talk leader. The evangelist and his wife didn't know until a leaders meeting when we just walked in and said we're not doing anything. And so things were already starting to happen. And I feel like they were like, we don't know about her anymore. But I was invited to this side quest, right? This side quest meeting. And I think that was actually the couple who were our disciplers. They're the ones who kind of pulled us in because they were like, why aren't they invited? But yeah, so Nikita has more of a lot of stuff that was going on in this larger meeting.
And so here the question is asked, was the task force to get everyone unified under the kingdom despite what was going on outside? Girl, it was. It was. And a part of me feels like that's why I was brought in. I think they had some good players in there, but I think I was brought in because, well, I had been a leader and people kind of looked at me as a leader, even though I didn't have a title. I think we were Bible talk leaders at that time, actually. But I think it's because at the time I was a loose cannon. And so if they could bring all my fire and my indignation under this task force and direct it for their purpose. And also, I think they thought I would be satisfied with this charade. I think they thought it would be enough because it had always been enough. It had always been enough. I just told you guys how I had been there for years, fed up, and they gave me the line, well, you used to come to receive and now you give. And I was like, okay. And I stayed. Like they were used to just being able to say fluff and garbage. And we'd be like, okay. And then if all else fails, just deny yourself. Seek first the kingdom. Deny yourself, seek first the kingdom. Don't think of yourself more highly than you ought. And that is the band-aid that fixes everything. What does Asha say? The Winter Soldier analogy to snap us back into place. Deny yourself, seek first the kingdom. Don't think of yourself more highly than you ought. Oh, and things the Lord detests, hates and detests. Haughty, is that haughty spirit, haughty eyes, whatever? That's basically being arrogant, thinking you know anything. How dare you think you know anything? So I'm sure that they thought, because it had always worked, they're like, oh, well, we'll just tell them that we're going to have this group and she will just feel so honored to be invited in and given a little taste of leadership and to be part of this change agent, that everything's going to be fine. Little did they know. Christina! Christina! Christina's gone. If you're not familiar with that Tyler Perry reference, is it Diary of a Mad Black Woman? Christina's gone. I don't even think I had realized Christina was gone yet. But okay, let's let the story unfold. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Because here we are. We're not in the group. We're instead making YouTube videos about it. So Christina indeed is gone. How did it feel to get invited? Let's start at the beginning. It almost feels like you get a golden ticket. First of all, I didn't even know that the Unity Task Force was a thing. I think it was kind of under wraps at first. And so I get a call from my discipler who was an elder, because we were so spiritual. We were so elite. We got discipled by the elders. Now that I look back, I think it was possibly less about being elite and more, I think they were starting to see, even more than I could see, that Nikita's losing her mind. And this couple is known for being sweet. And they're also elders. They have a title. So they're leaders and they're softer. So I would feel listened to and also guided, I guess. But so I get a call from him. Not even his wife, the man. How progressive. And he's like, hey, we're doing this thing. It's called the Unity Task Force. And your voice is so needed. Your voice, even in personal meetings, he would just tell me about how my voice is so needed. And I actually think about him at least once a week while I make content online. I'm just like, thanks. I'm using my voice. You're right. I don't think either of us knew it was going to be like this, but you were onto something. God was trying to tell you something. He spoke through you, let him use you. And so your voice, you're just so powerful. We're trying to pull some people together for this Unity Task Force. We're going to meet. I can send you the link. Is that something that you'd be interested in? Yeah, of course. Oh my gosh. Something's going to be done. The Lord has heard my cry for help. The Lord will answer my prayer. That's a scripture. Yes, I knew the leaders were good. I knew you guys can. Let's do this. Let's do it. And I get picked, little old troublemaking me. I felt like Elphaba when she sings The Wizard and I. When I meet the wizard, my whole world's gonna change. Because when you're with the wizard, no one thinks you're strange. No leader is not proud of you. No husband acts ashamed. I just was like, this is going to be great. I get to help bring change. I get to help bring change. What's the other line of the song where it's like, one day there will be a celebration in Oz, all to do with me. Not that I didn't want like personal, I wasn't looking for that. But just like, oh, because of this group that I'm going to be a part of, I'm going to stand there with the wizard. Yes. And it sounds crazy, but that's what it is to be in a cult. Like, why was this so monumental? Asha, are you aware you're muted? You're just happy to nod. Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm aware I'm muted. I'm laughing so much. I don't want to be like cutting you off. Yeah.
Okay. But I just felt like, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I got the golden ticket. This is the best news of my life. Like, let's do this, baby. I knew I was on the winning team. I knew we wanted to make disciples. Can't you hear them? Hear them singing. The people there rejoicing with one voice. They are shouting, singing, hallelujah. Praises heard around the world. Praises heard around the world. Praises heard around the. Sing it for me one more time. Praises heard around the world. All right, like hallelujah. I also was in the song ministry, so. So yeah, but that's how it felt. How did the meetings actually go? First of all, they were on Zoom and they were on Sunday evenings. Now, this is two strikes. One is on a Sunday, the day before I got to go back to work, after we've been at church. Two, it's in the evening. I don't even like to go on dates in the evening. I don't like to do anything in the evening. However, I am here for the cause. I am here for the cause, but I'm already annoyed, okay? Then, as I remember, it was just a very white group. It was a very white group. But when I was talking to Asha about this episode and I started listing who was in the group, I was like, wait a daggone minute. There was a lot of Black and brown people up in this meeting. More than my brain doesn't remember. And why does my brain not remember? Because we weren't allowed to talk, really. Or like if we would talk, we were quickly like guided back into what was appropriate. So it was diverse on paper, but it was very clear. Okay, I thought I froze. It was very clear very quickly who was running the show, and it was old white men. They did most of the talking. If we spoke out of turn, then, we were kind of gaslit, shamed, discipled into being more PC or whatever. And I don't remember, I said something. I put a lot of this out of my mind, guys. I was surprised by how much I didn't remember. So I don't remember what I said or what somebody said, but there was another older white man, and something he said, it was just very, very clear that he was extremely conservative and trying to maintain the status quo. And nobody checked him and nobody said anything. And I was very confused because I thought this was the Unity Task Force where we were supposed to be addressing these issues, but he's actually championing for things to stay the same and for us to not get carried away. And I was just like, I'm sorry, what's happening here? I felt like I had whiplash at the way that it just felt like more of the same, but in a private meeting. And so I can't remember if I called my discipler the elder or if he called me after. And I asked, like, what was up with that guy? And what And basically, I was told, oh, well, we wanted to bring people in from all walks of life and all perspectives so everybody could be represented. And I was like, I see what's going on here. That's all you had to say. That's all you had to say. I see what's going on. This is just going to be more of the same. It's going to be more of an uphill battle than I anticipated, but let's see. Let's keep going and see if anything's going to get better, if anything's going to be different. Newsflash, it was not different. It did not feel like a safe space. I found out later that in addition to me being annoyed and tired and stressed, that there were other Black members who were having like panic attacks, who their sleep that night and maybe for a night or two afterwards was completely disrupted just from participating in that meeting. And I say participate very loosely because yet again, we were not allowed to say much. And when I say allow, again, it's just you could speak out, but they would just talk over you or they would gaslight you and just spit more of the same rhetoric of like, well, we don't want to be too off-putting for other people. And what other things would they say? Well, consider it from this perspective, always the devil's advocate. Yeah. Asha, did you want to say something?
Yeah. And so the one meeting I went to, y'all, I talked about that in our very first ever YouTube video Nikita and I did together because I was already on the edge. Like I said, I had already said I can't be a Bible Talk leader anymore. I am losing my mind. I don't know why. I'm losing my mind because of all the cognitive dissonance and the fact that my critical thinking was trying to peek through and I was trying to shove it down. But anyway, and I went to that one meeting and everything Nikita just said here happened there. And that's where I had my first panic attack and just was like, what am I a part of? And that night is where I had my existential crisis and left shortly after. Because they weren't hiding it. They had pretended that we were moving in this progressive, direction. And then just switched it on us. Went right back to things that I felt like I hadn't experienced since I was in my 20s or in campus. The gaslighting, the strong arming, the talking over you, the making it clear that you're saying the wrong thing right now. You're not saying the right thing. And so, therefore, we're going to make you feel weird about it. We're going to look at you like this as you're talking, as if we don't understand what you're trying to say. And it was just like the Winter Soldier. There were these facial expressions, the things that they said in response to what we were sharing, that my brain knew you're in trouble. My brain was like, you're in disapproval. You're in disapproval of the leaders. But another part of my mind was like, but why? You called me here to say these things. You called us here to do this, So the same thing. I was hearing about people having panic attacks, people just having lots of anxiety, even going into the next meeting. They made it very, very, and so my discipler was a part of the Unity Task Force. So I was hearing this from her. At one point, she said that they just made it harder and harder every time they came to the next meeting. So people who wouldn't back down, instead of just shutting them down, the new tactic became, let's be confused. Let's pretend that we just don't understand. This whole situation is just too hard for us to understand, So explain it again. Well, what do you mean? Well, give me an example. Do you have a better example? Maybe it was just that one person. Oh, no, it wasn't. Well, you know what? We've had this long 3-hour meeting where we've made you over-explain yourself into pure exhaustion. How about you do this? This is what she actually said happened. They said, go and write it all down and bring us a list next time. So it was just continuously making things harder and harder. And so it was to make people give up. It was to make people just say, never mind. This is too hard. I'm happy to go back to the way things were. And so it was just crazy. That's all I have to say. It was a traumatizing experience for people, making something so simple extremely hard and playing in our faces. Because I think I said in the very first video Nikita and I did together that our little side meeting started off with, okay, so what can we do to be more diverse? I have a list of songs. What songs should we sing? Any like Negro spirituals? Literally. It was like, are there any songs that appeal more to Black people? We were like, that's not what we came to this meeting to talk about. We came to talk about issues. We thought you wanted to hear issues. And they were like, oh, really? And it's just this weaponized incompetence. That's the word. That's what they kept doing. Like, there are issues. And it's just this gaslighting, this subtle, very powerful gaslighting that was going on. In my meeting, you could see it. All of the Black people started to, I don't know, become disheveled in our face. We became very quiet, not even knowing how to respond to this. And I'll never forget, I mean, this person is still a member, but he was a white guy and his name was Danny. And he noticed what was happening and he actually decided to speak up and say, I'm sorry, I totally understand what Asha is talking about. Lisa was in this meeting. He was like, I totally understand what she's talking about. Like, I do it. What they're expressing, I actually do that. I've actually been a person who has said, why do we need to talk about this? So they're not crazy. He pretty much said they're not crazy. And when he did that, then, these two leaders could not, silence anymore. When he acknowledged, I'm the person who has reacted the way that they're explaining. They just shut the meeting down and said, oh my gosh, well, thank you so much. Well, and then they were like, this is obviously more than we intended to talk about today. So we're going to have another meeting next week to talk about this again. And they just shut it down. So yeah, that's the experience Nikita experienced in the bigger meeting is the same stuff I heard and what I experienced in my little meeting. So yeah.
And the way that it's like they brought us together in this room, because it was other like vocal Black people too, whether they were not as vocal on social media, they just had stronger personalities, and they were kind of like people who in the group, in the cult, you knew kind of had this unspoken following, like people who were kind of loyal to them. That sounds weird, but I mean, it's a cult, so everything's weird. But that like people liked them or trusted them or had been led by them, like been discipled by them at different times or whatever. So we were brought here, and it's like they brought us here to look at us with those facial expressions and to pause and to gaslight, to separate us, because I did not feel unified in that group, even with the other Black people. And we were all under this traumatic influence. So I don't want to shame anybody, really. But there were so many times, I think I tried to be very vocal and very blunt in the meetings because of how they would act like they didn't understand. So I would just say things and call it what it was when I was given the chance to speak. I think that's another reason I was so straight to the point, because I was like, I don't know how many times they're gonna let me open my mouth in this meeting, so let me just say what I need to say. And I felt like nobody supported me. Nobody said, I agree, or I've seen that, even like from the Black people. And on a couple of occasions, I would get text messages later that night or in the days to come. I really appreciated when you said that. I would have really appreciated if you would have said that in the meeting. Got me out here looking crazy. And I know I'm not crazy, but nobody's telling you you're not crazy. And so you're trying to hold on to your sanity. Asha and I weren't tight then. I think our book club I had just started joining, or I was about to join. I can't recall. So I didn't have that support yet. Um, and so that was really, really hard, and that's another thing when you look on a mass scale, globally, colonization, with the way that the United States has been brought up, even slavery, like how do they infiltrate? By dividing the core group. Like, we'll have some in the house, we'll have some in the field, we'll turn them against each other, we'll have some be the best boys, we'll have some give, some of the women access to whatever, and find different ways to create infight. And it felt like that too, where you would get blasted if you tried to support somebody. And so there was one instance where there was an older Black woman, beautiful, very intelligent, very accomplished professionally, very well spoken, all of these things. And I forget what she asked or what she said, but she just kind of got like blasted in the group a little bit. Very like, well, we shouldn't do da 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 da, and we can't say that, and we da da da. Which, first of all, who do you think you're talking to? But anyway, yeah, so that happened. But then was it that same meeting or was it the very next meeting? I think a white or a Hispanic man said or did something along the same line of what she had done, completely tolerated. I was like, excuse me. Because when Miss So-and-so did that and I didn't say it like this, of course, because respectability politics. But I did say, last time when Miss So-and-so did this, she was torn to shreds. And she was this, where is that same blah, blah, blah? Sorry, so much of it is out of my brain. But I just do remember this. I remember Miss, what's her name, did it, was completely humiliated. I don't know if she felt humiliated, but the way they treated her was disrespectful and humiliating. Then a white or Hispanic man did the exact same thing. Nobody bats an eye. And I called that out. Because, listen, I'm a people's people. I'm a girl's girl. Keep that same energy. It is sad to say, I feel like nobody really had my back in that way. But those are the types of things that would go on, and they would be right in our face. And I know that people would see that. And again, that same Hispanic man, and I'm not sure if it was him who said it or not, he was there. But was also upsetting for me was that he sided with the status quo and would say things like, well, why should we have to talk about it here? Our faith is in the Lord. I come from this island where people literally have to be afraid to walk outside. They could get beat with sticks. And so I said, well, then I feel like their churches there should be talking about how to navigate that too. Because that's real life. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and then of course in my head, because my dad is Hispanic, my dad is Dominican, but he's darker skinned. This man looked more like, I guess, J-Lo's people. I don't know, just the fairer skin. But in my head, I'm like, sir, they don't like you either, right? I don't understand what you don't understand about how we're in the same boat. But of course, I couldn't say that. And he and I weren't really close. I don't even know if I'd ever spoken to him before this meeting. But I know one time he said something extremely insensitive. Oh, I think it was like, well, why don't you guys just speak? Why don't you just tell us? And I brought up the scripture that says, when it comes to Jesus, like a bruised reed, he will not break, a smoldering wick, he will not snuff out. And I'm like, bro, we're already hurting. Why would you put more burden on us? And I said it more eloquently. There was more to the point, and even the white leaders were like, thank you, Nikita, that's exactly right. I think we should have more grace. But speaking of grace, sorry, going back to the incident of the older Black lady being whatever, like disrespected publicly, when I brought that up, I was told, oh yes, well, we've learned since then and we're learning and growing, we need to have grace on one another. Okay, so where was the public apology to her then? And I don't think I said that, because again, was I even given the right to speak. But like, it was awful. And another instance was, so there was, well, you guys lived it. The summer of 2020, it was just like atrocity after atrocity, violence after violence, riot after riot, fire after fire, injustice after injustice. So who knows, really? But because of one of the things, the elders made a statement from the pulpit. And they also published a page on their website addressing unity and race stuff. And so, in a lot of Black people, I think most, if not all, were very underwhelmed by the language on the website and also what was said from the pulpit. And so a Black man spoke up in the meeting. I believe it might have been Asha's discipler, and was like, "Did you guys consult anybody Black? Like, did you before you did this?" Elders using technology. Did you guys consult anybody? The elder got super defensive. And then not only that, the elder's wife got very defensive and snappy and was like, these men have been chosen by God. God speaks through them and they do their research and we need to trust their leadership. And like, again, just completely defensive. I'm sorry. What is this group for? What is this? I'm very confused, especially when the wife went off. I was like,
And that's a perfect example of that whole thing of how they reverted back to those previous brainwashing tactics. When they got called out for creating a unity task force where they didn't actually create any unity and speak to anybody who was not a leader, speak to the people that they actually needed to hear from. When those people spoke up, they said, "Who are you? We've been chosen by God." That is a huge tool of this cult, is this hierarchy with the leadership of them being chosen. So you can't say anything. And they had done a good job for quite a while, because things were going their way. So they were able to loosen up the reins a bit. They hadn't used language like that in a while. And it was during this time that language came back, baby. It came back. They were like, get in your place. You're lucky we have even acknowledged that there is racism. Get back in the box, like in the Barbie movie. Get back in the box, you Jezebel. That's so I just wanted to point that out, like, wow. And that's what I was talking about. This is why I think that was a big part of the reason people were starting to have panic attacks, starting to like physically react, because they hadn't experienced that in a minute. And it came back full force. They were like, listen, we were just pretending. We were just pretending to care. Y'all are talking too much. We don't allow people in our church to talk like this. We don't allow people in this church to challenge us. We pretended to be good people for too long. We done messed up. And they were like, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. And we have some more proof of that at the end of this video. But yeah, I just had to jump in and say, there it was. So yeah.
Yeah. And so I think they realized that it was getting real. And to a certain extent, we were not going to accept that level of lip service. So they were like, let's have some subcommittees. Because I think something that I brought up a couple times was, so what are we going to do? This is a task force. What are the tasks? I know I asked that at least once, but I feel like more than once. But at least once, I was like, what are the tasks? This is a Unity Task Force. Where are the tasks? Where's the I'm trying to be about that action. Okay, let's not waste time. And so they were like, let's divide up into subcommittees. Excuse me, sorry, you guys saw I was snacking. One will be about like music. One will be about, I can't even remember them. I'm sorry. And why can't I remember? Because it was a bunch of bullshit. Like it was just stupid. A whole one just committed to music. What are we doing here? What are we
That
doing
must have
here?
been mine. That must have been my group.
Maybe you came into the music subcommittee. I can't remember which one I was in. I remember one of the guys who was in mine, but I don't even remember. But I was feeling positive, like, okay, we've got subcommittees. Let's get down to business. All right. We're gonna do something. Now that we're in smaller groups, we've somewhat established what the whole group is doing, even though I don't really know. But surely in the subcommittees, we're gonna get to things. However, and I can't even remember what my subcommittee was about. And I think it's just because I felt like my time was so wasted. It was so stupid. I can't even remember. What I do remember is looking up articles. I found several articles, and again, it was 2020, about, and these were from like credible news sources and things like that. Well, credible and news sources. Some people might say those are oxymorons, but whatever. We were starting literally from below ground zero. So let's just start building some resources, getting some outside perspectives, which of course now I know is a big no-no. No, you don't read anything that's not published by Douglas Jacoby. So they were these articles about how so many diverse and what's the word? Non-denominational churches, you can tell how far removed I am. Non-denominational churches, how Black members were leaving in droves because even these diverse churches had overwhelmingly white leadership. And I submitted these articles and I was told, even by the people in my subcommittee, and I think even the Black man was like, well, we have to be careful where we get these articles from because, you know, anybody could publish anything that says anything. And we just want to make sure that it's correct. So what I wanted to contribute or submit was dismissed. Then, and I think this happened after I left. I heard that the subcommittees push things forward to the actual staff, the actual hired staff. And they looked at the plans and the suggestions for actions and said, no, we're not going to be doing any of this. So I'm sorry, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? What is the point of this? This is a waste of time. You're wasting my time. You're wasting everybody's time. And I basically left the group. I did not persevere. I think I made it through a handful of meetings, but it's because I had seen everything I needed to see. First of all, we've already established the fact that I don't want to be doing anything in the evening and on a Sunday before I have to go back to work. I am exhausted. I'm an exhausted working mother, traumatized working Black mother of a toddler. My time is precious and y'all are playing in my face. Also, in a personal discipling time outside, where my ex and I were meeting with the elder and his wife, I shared, because I think I had sent a text message prior. It was like several weeks prior, and he never answered, which was odd because he was so good at responding to text messages. So we get together, he's in our home, and he's like, Nikita, sister, I want you to know that I read your text message and I'm sorry I couldn't get back. I've been really wrestling. I've been wrestling in prayer and I hear you. And basically my text message was, I want to stay. I want to see change. If I'm going to feel good about staying, I need to know what are the action steps. Because in my head, I know change isn't going to happen overnight. That doesn't happen in a relationship. It doesn't happen in an organization. It doesn't happen in yourself. Like if you're going to therapy or trying to do a new habit. But I need to know what are the plans. Because right now, in one-on-one conversations and in this task force, we're talking in circles where it's concepts of a plan. It's concepts of a plan. What is the plan? What's not clicking, Stephen? Like, I'm getting annoyed because, again, we're in a cult. I don't have time. I don't have energy. And now you're taking it to waste it? Don't play with me. Don't piss me off. So that's the text that I sent. Like, I want to stay. Tracy Chapman, give me one reason to stay here. And why am I so singy? It's like sing-songy today. Like, I don't want to leave you, but you got to make me change my mind. And he literally said, he sat on my couch and looked me in my face and said, I wish I could tell you, but I can't promise you anything's going to change. But I can tell you that when we mess up, or if something happens that you don't like, that you can come and tell me and I'll listen. What am I supposed to do with that? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. You weren't supposed to do anything with it. Like, everything you're describing, yeah, wrestling and praying. But wrestling so hard, not to be disparaging, to not be, prejudiced. It's just so hard. But anyway, everything you were experiencing is what you were supposed to experience. Here's where I put on my, going deep into the conspiracy theory rabbit hole. Everything you were experiencing, you were supposed to experience. I think even down to the fact that it was on a Sunday night. Most of the people in that meeting had already been probably serving in children's ministry, then went to church, then went to leaders meeting, and now you're throwing them into another meeting on a Sunday night before they have to go to work. It was intentional. It was to make it so that it couldn't be that effective, to where you would be too tired to really, have meaningful conversation that would lead to change, because they didn't want any change. Everything you're saying about you being exhausted, you're a mom, you have to go to work, they're wasting your time. It was to make you eventually give up so that they could blame you later on when you're looking around for change and they say, well, we had a committee, we had a task force, we had subcommittees, people stopped coming. That's what they always did. They always blamed people for the pain and turmoil and confusion that they caused. They would be like, well, did you talk to them? Well, what did you do? Don't bring up problems if you're not going to have solutions. And so they deliberately set you up to be drained by this process so that you wouldn't want to do it anymore, and that they could blame you for not wanting to do it anymore. It is on purpose. Yes, exhaustion keeps you complacent. Absolutely. That is a huge tool of cults. So you might be wondering, well, why even have the task force? Because cults have to have the appearance of looking like they're doing something, right? They have to get credit for doing something. And it's one of the things they hide behind, these pretend good acts. They have to do it. It's a part of the business model, unfortunately. And they're completely shameless about it. They're completely shameless about it. It just happens all the time. I had a crash out moment with a friend of mine who still goes to the church. I don't really talk to people who still go, but just this one person. But even that, it's not that I don't like her, and I just can't take it. Like, it makes me crazy inside to hear the excuses for the church, to hear things being explained away. But this is someone who's been in a church that didn't have leadership for a while. And whenever a church doesn't have leadership, it becomes a safe environment. Somehow it becomes like safe. It's different
Imagine
here.
that.
Imagine that. Because they don't have enough leaders to come down there and whip y'all into shape. That's all. So for years she's been telling me how her church is different, her church is different. But guess what? It's not. So anyway, they got some new leaders that came in, and they were like, yeah, you know, we're not trying to change up anything. Then they weren't even having midweeks there. She was like, my church is totally different. We don't have midweeks. It's more just family groups. Then they started saying, we're going to bring midweeks back because some people are missing it. And they like to do that. They like to say some people. Who are these people? Who are these people who want to go to work and then drag their children out on a Wednesday night to church? I don't think they exist. But anyway, you know, this leadership started saying people are missing it, people want it, and they tried to make it seem like, you know, we're just gonna do it. Whoever wants to come can come. And as a matter of fact, you know what? This is what they do. They like to play. They play games, y'all. And I have an example of that at the end of this too, a documented example. But they were like, as a matter of fact, we know the church has had issues, and a lot of you have like lots of church hurt. We're going to address church trauma at the midweek. If you come to the midweek, you'll actually do what? Like they did with this task force, you'll have your voices heard. But you can't have them heard if you don't come to the midweek. So, you know, she was saying it like, but they're doing a good thing. I said, no, you just told me your church different and they don't do midweeks. Now they're doing midweeks. She's like, but they're going to address trauma there. Sure, they will. So they're going to address trauma in a meeting that has traumatized people. And she just goes, you're so funny, Asha. I'm like, it's actually not funny. So then they announced during Sunday that they were going to bring midweeks back. They didn't say it was optional, like they had led her to believe. And I called her on it. I said, did they say it was optional? She was like, no. And I went to one of the elders and she said, oh, no, it was supposed to be optional. And that's it.
Oh, no.
There was, oh, no, I don't know what happened. They lied to you. Then of course, all these churches are on YouTube.
Wait.
Yeah.
Let's just even start with the fact that why does it have to be said that it's optional? This is a church. Why can it not be assumed as like if you don't explicitly say it's not option, it's optional, then everyone's gonna feel like they have to be. That's because it's a cult. But okay,
it's a
that's
cult.
all I wanted to say. Because why should you have to say that?
And so, of course, all of these churches put everything on YouTube. I hope they never stop. Because I got a lot of catching up to do. So, of course, her church put their midweeks on YouTube where they're supposed to be addressing trauma. Did they address trauma? No. It was just a lesson on how to communicate better. And they were really talking to the members. Like, y'all need to learn how to communicate better. So I called her and said, hey, I saw your trauma lessons. And she was like, okay, Asha, I agree. My church isn't any different. It isn't any different. And I was like, they're liars. They lied to you. They told you midweek would be optional. It was not optional. They told you some people want it. Those people don't exist. They told you they would address trauma. They addressed no trauma at all. They did communication lessons, which were trash and crap also. Hello. And she just was like, I don't know. All they do is lie. They did all of that to get people back into midweek. Do you see how they played this game? We're the good guys. We care about you. Even the whole idea that we're bringing midweek back is because some people want it. And as a matter of fact, our heart goes out to everyone and we just want all of you to be heard. We're going to talk about trauma. And then they just switched it on them. And then they have just moved forward like they didn't make any of these promises. This is the game that this church plays all the time. All the time. They don't get tired. It is a sociopathic organization. They are sociopaths. They will never get exhausted from lying constantly to keep you complacent, to keep you compliant. Because they aren't going after unity. This Unity Task Force was never about unity. It was about getting people of color, Black people, back into compliance. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Because that's all they care about.
And you can pinpoint what they care about by looking at the things that they talk about and the things that they enforce.
Yep.
Because they love in the Bible study indoctrination series, and then even in discipling times, to shame members with the scripture about godly sorrow. Godly sorrow, according to the scriptures, leads to repentance. And in the passage about godly sorrow, it talks about like what readiness to see justice done, eagerness to clear yourself. It's this passage that's very clear about like when you get it, you change immediately. And they love to use that passage
Yeah.
for normal members, either people they're trying to get to make these crazy life changes so they can join the church, like quitting their job that has them work on a Wednesday night or a Sunday morning so they can't come to church, or if they're living with a significant other but they're not married, to move out, even if it means they have to move into a shelter or move back in with a family member who is abusive in one way or another. They will use this scripture and say, do you not have godly sorrow? Then you must not be truly repentant. And then what does the Bible say? Either you repent or you perish. Like it just all strings together. A equals B equals C equals D equals you go to hell if you don't listen to me. Like that's all it is. But when it comes to this, when it came to the matter of race, all of a sudden it's, well, it's very complicated. There are good people on both sides.
Change takes time, guys.
Change takes time. We don't want to ruffle any feathers. And it's like, really? Because I've heard you say, and I know I said this on our old videos that addressed this, but I've heard you say from the pulpit, oh, you might feel upset because I'm calling out sex before marriage, or I'm talking about homosexuality, and you might not come back, but guess what? That's okay, because Jesus didn't care about the number of his followers. Jesus cared about the quality and the hearts of his followers. But now you guys are concerned about ruffling feathers. Now, oh, well, we said this and some people said we said it too much. Or one elder literally told my ex that it was about money, that speaking out about race was offending some very first tithers in the Virginia Beach area. Literally told, because we were safe. We were the good ones. Christina's gone. They didn't know that at the time. But literally said that. So don't lie. You lie. You're a bunch of liars, you brood of vipers. You guys like that scripture? You brood of vipers.
Whitewashed tombs.
People's money, lives. People have unalived themselves because of being a part of this group, and you would rather sit and feel good about yourself and gaslight us into submission and confusion, and people are still there holding on to the promises of this God-forsaken lie of a website because you said this, and you are liars. I hope you rot. Unless you repent and go on an apology tour like the rest of us who have opened our eyes and have seen what we have done, you deserve the fiery lake of sulfur, that you shame young men and women into believing that that's where they're going to go because they didn't want to share their faith. Because they didn't want to miss studying to go invite people to Bible talk, and you call them cowards and say they're going to go to the fiery lake of sulfur. But when you write, let's see, where is it here? Mission statement. Following the example set by Jesus in partnership with elders and ministry leaders, we will listen, identify, and provide support to ministry leaders in order to help address the issues which may disrupt, including sin that threatens the harmony of our fellowship, while also celebrating that which unites us. Issues which may disrupt, including sin that threatens. So to the naked eye, you would think that that is racism. But in fact, how it actually played out in the Unity Task Force group, who was the disruptive one? Who threatened the harmony? Us.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
I needed to be extracted. I needed to be silenced. The older woman who tried to speak up, who has intelligence and professional accolades, you shamed and belittled her in front of a group of people. You caused people to have panic attacks. You gaslit and acted like nobody knew what they were talking about because we disrupted your precious harmony, your
Yeah.
harmony of silence.
Yep.
You write this on your website, and in reality, you're doing the opposite. But plausible deniability is the name of the game. Did you guys do this?
Mm,
You did. You did. Oh, you listened. And then this is rich. Right here, people get to submit it. It might as well be a digital trash can.
yes.
It might as well be a digital. You're not going to do it. Do you guys know this group still exists? Because it's present on
Still.
the website now. Asha said she heard someone say recently that the meetings are going and they're in it. And nothing has changed. Because guess what? Nobody who's left has received a legitimate apology. But you guys want to preach about what readiness to see justice done? Get out of my face.
It's comical at this point. My awesome brother-in-law who was in here in the chat a few minutes ago spoke with somebody who said, "Yeah, man, we still having meetings. We're not staying silent. You know, we're still speaking up, man, because it's not okay." And at this point, it's hilarious. At this point, it's a comedy sketch. What are you doing? And nothing has changed. Nothing has changed, and they don't intend to. I have a little video clip showing someone just saying the quiet part out loud. Like, yeah, we're getting back on track. Getting back on track to how things were before. They have no intention on changing. That elder that Nikita keeps talking about told another sister at the time, you know, after she poured out all of her concerns, poured out her heart, he said, "You know, I just want things to go back to the way they were before." What do you mean? You mean, I know what you mean. You mean when you didn't have to hear us share our pain and you got to live in a world where everything you did was okay and we were quiet and compliant in order not to disrupt your comfort. Because you think about what people are saying when, you know, as Nikita's talking about her time in these meetings, and they're like, you know, we're ruffling some feathers. Some people are getting offended. We want to keep the unity. That's not true. If you wanted to, keeping the unity means you have to hear the pain, the concerns of one of the other sides. When you tell one group of people they need to be quiet so we can keep the unity, what you're saying is your pain doesn't matter. This group's does. This group over here, their pain is the one that matters. And you need to make sure that they don't feel uncomfortable. And in this situation, it was the people in Virginia Beach with more money. Unity means making sure they don't feel too uncomfortable. That's what unity means. It actually doesn't mean that we care about everyone equally. Whenever people say, let's calm down, let's not do too much, you got to think about the people that they're trying to protect. They weren't trying to protect the marginalized. They weren't trying to protect the Black and brown people. They weren't trying to protect the people who are hurting. They're trying to protect the people who are benefiting from the system, who are uncomfortable that their benefits, their freedoms are now being threatened. And so that's what's happening. That's
And
why.
this is,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is part of why it's taken so long for Asha and I to make a video about this topic, because as people who lived through it and experienced it to varying degrees, It's just a memory of like, well, that was a bunch of BS. You want to know what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. So what are we going to talk about? But realizing nobody really knows the extent of nothingness. And
Yeah.
that was by design. So again, to go back to um the Wizard and I song and Wicked, and also even the Wizard of Oz, like it was very much that at the end. Again, spoilers if you hadn't seen it, but to be so excited only to get to the end and realize you're monsters.
Yep.
You're monsters, actually. This is that same like heartbreak and disillusionment, and like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Can't do this anymore. It was just a bunch of lies, and then they continue to project these lies outward to the rest of the congregation, because it kind of like it controls the fire, because
Yeah.
people may be upset, but at least then they can say, okay, but I know the Unity Task Force, they're meeting up, and any day now, any week now, they're going to have a plan and they're going to fix it.
Yeah.
That's what the outsiders see. That's what they're hoping, because they're not on the inside.
Yeah.
And so when people would ask me, even when I was still a member, I would just roll my eyes and be like, nothing's happening. It's nothing. And I mean, maybe people thought I was joking. Maybe people thought I was exaggerating. Literally nothing. Just talking in
Literally.
circles. And that is why I left, because it was just a big waste of time. It was a joke, a mask, a facade, an insult to people's intelligence. Like, it was nothing but a device to hold back the outrage.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. I remember another sister, her husband told my husband that that is what she eventually said, or maybe her husband told me, that what finally, you know, made her go, "Oh my God," is that she thought about how long she had been in the task force, how many meetings they had had, and then she stopped and asked herself, "What has changed since we started this?" And she was like, "Absolutely nothing." And she was like, "Oh." Oh, this is a facade. Exactly. This is a game that they're playing. I am spinning my wheels. You're playing with me. And that's all they do. That's all. Oh, they're just so good with it. Oh my goodness. So yeah,
So
I
yeah,
just
I know
remember
you guys have
somebody
been
was
waiting for
saying
this
that.
episode for a long time, but it's just honestly, even as I sat to write the notes, I just felt myself getting outraged. And I'm like, this is
Yeah.
why I put this out of my memory, because the whole cult was already a big gaslight and waste
Yeah.
of time. But this was like a gaslight inside of a gaslight,
It
a waste of time
was.
inside of a waste of time. I was just like, I don't want to talk about it. Nothing happened. It was stupid. The end. But we asked
It
and
was
you
a
guys
gaslight
answered,
inside of a gaslight.
and you still were really curious about what happened. So I hope that you are satisfied with this longer answer of nothing.
I
Nothing happened.
I know another sister who told me that in her meeting, I don't know if this was one you were a part of, Nikita. I don't know because you didn't share the story. She said that, a lot of Black people came into the meeting ready to, talk about the issues they saw because they thought came in hopeful. Like, we can work through this. We're so grateful that you want to
Mhm.
talk through this. And next thing she know, a white brother just started getting like crying and saying, "I'm so hurt. I'm so hurt by everything you all have said." And he was talking about his emotions as a result of the
I
fact
think
that
that
these
was the elder when
oh,
people, because if I'm not mistaken, were there tears? Y'all, I can't remember. I blurred so much out. But I think I remember him, it became about him.
that's what she said. She said
I
it
think
became
that
about
was the
him,
same thing.
and
And that's
everybody
when
in
the
the
wife,
meeting say that
yeah,
again, sorry.
and that's when the wife like came in.
Oh,
They're
that's the
chosen by
same
God.
story.
I think so.
Yeah, she said the meeting became about comforting him now, back to homeostasis, bringing him back. And she just was like, "What is going on?" Like she she talked about it for a week. She was like, "I can't believe that happened. Like, how did that happen? How did we spend the whole meeting that they told us was for us to be able to voice these issues, comforting this one guy?" I was like, "'Cause that's what it's actually all about." It's everything. Everything in a cult is all about keeping power funneled to a few people at the top. And they will use any tools they have in their belt. Any tools they have in their belt. So he got emotional. He's so hurt.
I remember feeling like, so I love the thumbnail. Asha made the thumbnail. Any thumbnail for these videos that you really, really, really love, Asha probably made them. The ones that are just like, okay, I probably made them. But like the really cool ones. Anyway, and so the reason I love this one, where it's like the black and white photo of the white guys, is because I started kind of telling the joke to people that I felt like our Unity Task Force was like an SNL skit, like a Saturday Night Live skit. Because it's like, oh, a church is getting together to talk about diversity and unity. Who should we get to lead it? Oh, I know, the 4 oldest, whitest men in the church. That's who should lead it. Like, it sounds like a joke. It sounds like an SNL skit. But it was reality. And like I said, when I went back and was telling Asha who all was in it, I was like, oh, I guess it actually was a pretty black group. It was pretty diverse, but we didn't get to talk much. Ooh, we were like sprayed with a water bottle. Stop that.
Yep.
And popped on the nose with a newspaper.
Yep. Yep.
And then when one of the white guys starts crying, an elder, then the white lady, the wife, sasses off at everybody and shames them using scripture. And yeah. And then we spend all of the time comforting him. And it's like, this is not what I volunteered my Sunday night for.
No.
I would never get over the fact. That's one thing my ex would laugh about a lot. He would walk in the room and I'd like roll my eyes and he would just be like, I'm amazed that you are awake in a meeting right now. And I was like, I don't know how many more times I have of this in me.
Yeah.
Like, it only took me a good few times. I picked up on the clues like, oh, this group is not about anything. Y'all don't need me. You do not need me here for this.
Yeah. Yeah. And they'll pretend forever. That's why the task force will exist forever. And there's going to be some white guy leading it who's going to pretend to listen every single month or week or whenever they're doing it forever. So, want me to show my little presentation now?
Please do.
All righty. Let's see, y'all. Let's see. I'm going to put this on the stage. All right. So, guys, you might be wondering, like, why? What is really going on right now? Everything that we're talking about here is just steeped deep into the patriarchy. Okay? This is a patriarchal system. Why can't anything change? Why is there no empathy? It really is all patriarchy. Now, kind of the patriarchal definition that most people know is this one: a social system that gives men a disproportionate amount of power and privilege in society, and is based on the idea that men are superior to women. And make no mistake about it, women are the ones who suffer the most in a patriarchal system, especially women of color and poor women of color. All right. But here's more of a a more accurate definition of the patriarchy. And that is that it is a social system in which power, privilege, and resources are structured to benefit men, particularly those who hold dominant racial, economic, and cultural identities, while systematically oppressing women, non binary people, and marginalized men. It operates through laws, traditions, economic systems, and cultural narratives that reinforce male dominance and hierarchy. It doesn't exist in isolation. It works alongside racism, classism, colonialism, and capitalism to reinforce the dominance of a select few. So I don't, you've seen us talk about this a lot, even in this video. At the end of the day, there's a select few sitting at the top of every single meeting, of every single task force, of every single decision. And their decisions all seem to repeat themselves. At the end of the day, there's no change actually happening. There are decisions that are made that continue to benefit them. So everything is done to benefit the king, y'all. The select few, the people at the top. That's the system of the patriarchy. Everyone needs to know their place and get in line, because this is to benefit this select few. And this is why a lot of cults, and especially religious organizations, have a patriarchal system, because it benefits those people at the top. And especially in a cult, right? Everything is about this cult leader. So cult leaders have all these different tools. The Bible is a tool. It's not something they actually believe in. It's a tool. Narcissism, racism, classism, misogyny, gaslighting, the hierarchy, all of these things are tools just to keep the king on his throne or on their throne. And, as I was looking deeper into this, I always saw the patriarchy as just one of the tools. But then when you just keep looking at it, you realize that the patriarchy is a big tool. And then you realize that it's the leader's favorite. It is really the favorite one of most cult leaders. And that's because when you really think about it, it's kind of like the patriarchy is what embodies all these other tools. All these other tools feed and fuel the patriarchy, which is why it is a cult leader's most favorite and most valuable tool. Okay? You can't have the patriarchy. You can't have, the patriarchy can't exist without upholding racism, without upholding misogyny, without a lack of empathy. It embodies all of that to give a select few their power. And so this is why just addressing racism, violence against people you say are your sisters and brothers who you love, this is why it's hard. This is why it's difficult. Because if I actually start to address racism appropriately, then I have to address misogyny. Then I have to address classism. Then we might have to address the hierarchy that's in this organization. We're not doing that. No. So we have to keep everybody in their place. We're even going to keep racism in its place. We're not going to address it properly, because that will unravel all these other things. So the patriarchy needs all these other systems of oppression in order to survive, right? So in a patriarchy, there's a select few at the top, and then everybody else are pawns, just pawns. And this is how the patriarchy works. You have one group of people that have decreased benefits compared to another group of people who have perceived benefits. It just plays on different people, right? Everybody in a patriarchy is suffering, except for the select few at the top. Everybody's suffering. But the way they keep everything in place is by having a group with decreased benefits, which makes another group feel like they have perceived benefits, which just keeps us fighting with each other all the time. Okay. And so that's why they were able to leverage, well, we don't want to ruffle feathers. There's other people over here who are hurt. Guys, we have to think about everyone, right? It's like they're using the fact that there are different groups, and this group with the perceived benefits is getting pissed off, right? Because the decreased benefit group is starting to say this isn't fair. And then the king at the top is like, I'm just trying to keep everybody harmonious. I don't know why I started talking in a country accent. I don't know. But yeah. And so what happens a lot of times, though, is the ones with the perceived benefits have more loyalty to the monsters at the top. And then the next group becomes more powerless. And that's what a lot of us became. We became completely powerless and then gave up, got exhausted, had panic attacks. And a lot of people left, or a lot of people are there still pretending that they're actually making a difference, and they're not. And it's all for the control of the person at the top. Okay. So like Nikita said, They even admitted it. Money was a motivator. Cult leaders seek money and control. That's all they want. That's all they want. And they will do whatever they got to do, play whatever games they got to play to make sure that they get to keep that control. They play these games. They play these games. Okay, let's look at this game. So here's especially a game that ICOC plays. Oh, they play it so good. All right. So when you're in a cult, people are always like, Asha, how did you join a cult? How did you join a cult? Because they don't look like cults, okay? All right. In a cult, you have what Dr. Lalish calls bounded choice. You feel like you're making these decisions on your own. You feel like you're bettering your life. You are fed a lie, but it's something that supports your dreams, supports something in life that you want. You want to make a difference. You're idealistic. You want to please God. Okay. So anyway, so with this bounded choice, this is my little diagram. There's this area called the safe zone where you get to make decisions and make changes, that don't threaten the cult leader. And then above that threshold is the no zone where they're like, yeah, you starting to infringe on my power. Now, this is this group over here, for example, I'm going to call them ICC. All right. ICC, we got the threshold right there at the middle, right? This is the threshold. ICC keeps their people about right here, though, way below the threshold. Okay. They got to stay right here. We ain't even letting you get close to the threshold. ICOC allows their people to exist about right here. And then every now and again, because things are going well, they might let you move up a little bit. Then you start asking questions, they put you back down. You start doing good, they'll let you come back up. This is how people are fooled in there. This is the task force, just playing these games. This is how they keep people stuck. This is why my friend, even though I pointed out to her that her church lied to her face, she just sat there and went, yeah, but I ain't leaving, But I still believe. I still believe in them. And I'm like, but why? Aren't you even going to say something? No, she's not. She's not. They just like to play this game. Then they're like, oh, y'all been doing good. Well, let's you get even closer. Oh, y'all been doing bad. We're going to move you back down. And they just play with people. Then if you're doing really good, they let you get really close to the threshold. That's when people go, yay, we're changing. We're changing. We're so great, And then next thing you know it, you back down. Now, what happens is, though, if any group decides to jump up here into the no zone, that's when they start smacking hands. That's when they're like, you better get out of here. You see that? They're like, go. No. That's when they put the foot down. That's when they start being like, y'all, I was chosen by God. You better shut up. Get back in the box. And that's what happens because everything is about that king right there. Okay, so that is my conspiracy theory chart. I just wanted y'all to see how it all works. Okay. Nikita, you can come back. And I have some more, but I just wanted to come back in case you want to say something, Nikita. It sounds like you're muted.
Yep. I don't have anything. I was just thinking that is going to be so beautiful to segment out and make its own little video and just pretend like you gave us a video.
Okay. I love it. So let's just I have an example. If y'all want to, give me like 10 more minutes, okay? Is that good, Nikita? You gotta go?
No.
All right. So they like to play these games, okay? So I'm gonna put this back up here. So I have this little video clip. I think that's what's on the next slide. I have this little video clip, right? And this is the video. Are we in the hell no zone? That's what we at now, Josh. We're in the hell no zone. So there's this video that I've been promising to put out, but it's just been almost traumatizing, okay? But I'm gonna put it out. I'm gonna do it. I promise. It's coming. By March. By March, I swear. Okay. So anyway, I just took a little clip from it. The video, the lesson is so bad. It is so bad. It's pretty much one of the leaders saying, listen, all the people with critical thinking have left. And it's just us dummies still here. And, you know, listen, we need to get back to the way things were before so we can get our power back. And they're starting to undo all the progress they pretended they were working toward. And this lesson is pretty much saying, stop listening to your wives. Like, if you're a real man in the church, you wouldn't actually listen to your wife. You guys have got to be out of your minds for letting your wives talk, pretty much is the lesson. And it is completely disgusting lesson. And then this is what he says at the end of that lesson. Okay. So hang with me, guys. Hang with me. This is what he says at the end.
Brothers, I know this might have come off as a bit of a heavy lesson, but I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged that we're even at a place, like there were years when we couldn't even talk about this stuff. Okay. But we're talking about it now. And you guys are here. And the thing that breaks my heart the most is I'm proverbially preaching to the choir. Okay. But brothers, we got a lot of brothers. You know, you can name 5 off the top of your head that need to be here. You can name 5 that are not leading their families the way they need to lead their families. You know 5 that are not into the spiritual disciplines, not living in the fear of the Lord, not walking by the Spirit. Brothers, this week, reach out to one of them. Amen. Tell them you miss them. Tell them you love them. Ask them how it's going. Let's bring our brothers back. And let's walk together in the fear of the Lord. To God be the glory.
Asha, you muted yourself.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I was laughing because I did give this person a filter. I gave them a filter because they are not someone who is on full-time staff. I do think that everything they say is disgusting, and I think they're a horrible person for now. But I do think this is someone who, in Hampton Roads, I'm sure this is a nationwide thing with church leaders, but particularly in Hampton Roads, there are certain men who are picked a lot of times from the congregation, like the right-hand men, the non-paid staff type people who are plucked to say the really cruel, hard things that the evangelists don't want to say. And I think it's a mind F. I think it's because these are people who are more like normal. And when they say it, it hits people different. And he's one of those people. He doesn't get paid by the church. This is not his full-time career, but he gets picked to give these lessons. And I believe with all my heart that he's fed what he's supposed to say. And you can kind of tell it because he stutters a lot especially with this lesson. He rambles on for like 47 minutes trying to say, don't listen to your wives. And he goes all around the world, all around the Bible, trying to make what he's saying fit into some type of godly message. It doesn't. But you could tell that he's struggling to do it, but that he's been challenged to do it. And because he benefits from this patriarchy, he's going to do it because he wants to be accepted by these men in the church. So that's my opinion. I could be wrong. That's how I feel about this person, which is why I felt like, well, let me hide their face. Even though this video is public on Facebook, on the Hampton Roads Church website, Facebook page, you can go look it up. But I just felt, and I feel like the lesson he's teaching is so disgusting, you know. It's just disgusting. So anyway, did y'all pick up the quiet part that he was saying out loud? Did y'all pick it up? So at the end of this horrific, disgusting lesson, he says, brothers, you know, I know this came across as kind of a intense lesson, a hard message, but I'm encouraged because there were years we couldn't even talk like this. He said the quiet part out loud. What do you mean you couldn't talk like this? Why couldn't you talk like this? What do you mean? He's letting us know right then and there. For years, we had to pretend that we were something we weren't. We had to be more accepting. We had to not come across with such a heavy hand. We had to look progressive, but we don't have to now. All the people with critical thinking are gone. They're all gone. And now we can enjoy going back to misogyny. We can go back to shutting women down. We can go back to us having the power. He says it. He says the quiet part. We couldn't talk about this stuff for years. I wanted to play that clip because it goes along with what we're saying. At the end of the day, the Unity Task Force, nothing happened. It was never meant for anything to happen. It was a game that they were playing. They lost a ton of people. And so now this brother stands on stage and he goes, hey, it's just us left. We don't have to pretend anymore. All the people who actually wanted change and stuff, they're gone. So I'm encouraged. We're back to where we need to be. And here's the thing, though. You all know there are other brothers who need to be here, and they need to get in here and get this word, get this message, get this brainwashing. And then he tells them to love bomb them. You know, 5 people who are here who should be here who aren't. Call them, tell them you love them. He's literally sitting there telling them how to love bomb, reach out, try to get them back into this mindset too, because we're going back. So even the fact that they're still having this fake, stupid Unity Task Force is still a facade, because this is what's actually being preached in the men's lesson. This is not an old lesson. This is recent. It was sent to us by somebody who was like, oh my God, this person is saying everything y'all have said in your previous, videos. I'm like, yeah, he is. He's just saying it out loud because he feels safe. He's safe now with the people who aren't going to challenge him, because the people who challenge, a lot of them have left. But it's all pretend. And I just have one more example, example that was documented digitally of how this place pretends, okay? Because remember, I told you, if you address racism, you have to address misogyny. And that is actually what happened. People started being like, well, what about the inequality with women? So they started having lessons about that too, where literally nothing happened. The lessons were the same. It was, we need to be unified. And it was like, okay, but we need to talk about this. We need to talk about the way women are treated. I remember being in a leaders meeting and somebody else said, what about the way people with mental illnesses are treated? You see how it started to unravel? And one of my friends who is a huge advocate for just the issues facing women in these misogynistic environments, said she pulled a leader aside and said, when are we really going to talk about this? The issue of inequality of men and women. And they, again, just like that person went to Nikita and told her it's because of money, because they thought Nikita was safe, they thought this person was safe too. And they told her, well, if we address the women issue, then we have to address the LGBTQ issue. You see, they're like, all of these little issues of inequality are all intertwined, and we don't have time for it. We got to keep our power concentrated at the top. Once I pull on that thread, I got to pull on this thread. It's the patriarchy. And so one church decided to go above that threshold. They went into the no zone. And let's look at how this lying, disgusting organization handled it, shall we? Okay, let's see. Hopefully that's my next slide. Okay, I thought this was funny. So, because I think that ICOC is the most dangerous of all of them because they play this stupid ass game. Sorry. Okay, let me calm down. So I love this Instagram account, XCOC Meme Therapy. I want this person to tell me who they are. They won't tell me. But anyway, they made this meme. You got RCW and ICC fighting, ICOC just sitting back there, just watching and smiling. Like they're so innocent. Ooh, they not. And let's look at something. Okay. So ICOC says they do something called complementarianism, okay? And this is a theological view that men and women have different but complementary roles and responsibilities in life. It's based on the idea that God created men and women to complete each other and that these roles are ordained by God. It's just misogyny, okay? But this is, they're trying to rebrand misogyny. So this is just because you're going to see this word come up, I wanted you to know what it means. Okay. So here's how the story starts. There's this couple in Portland. People probably know about this. This is kind of Nikita's breaking point when she left the church because she came across this whole situation. So these are the Johnsons. And you know how ICOC, like I said, they pretend to be progressive. They were pretending to be progressive as far as women's issues. And so this couple in Portland decided, we're really going to make the change. We're talking about this. We're going to make this change. They did a bunch of deep studies and said, we're not going to do complementarianism. We're going to have a gifts-based ministry where men and women are equal. We're going to teach mutuality. We see this in the scriptures in different places. We've just been ignoring it. And I think it is actually hurting us to have these roles based on, the private parts you were born with. And so they decided to implement it. And they did studies. They were putting them out on the internet. Yes, this was actually ICOC Church, y'all. Okay. And they were doing so good. Their church was growing. People loved it. A lot of strong women were actually moving to Portland because they were like, well, y'all won't let me lead over here. I'll go over here. And then they got some information sent to them. And this is what happened. So on Wednesday, October 19th, there was a meeting held with the ICOC Elders Service Committee and Portland leadership team. So this is Lisa Johnson. She had to make this announcement to her church. They decided to remove the Portland church from their list of churches. Why, y'all? Was it sexual immorality? Were people fighting? Were people blaspheming? Were people making factions? All the other things? No. They had just decided that they would practice mutuality. They hadn't changed anything else in their doctrine except that. And then they get a letter that their entire church is being removed. So the reason was given is that they have concluded that complementarianism will be taught and practiced in ICOC. That is what we will teach, okay? The Portland Church practiced mutuality, a gift-based rather than gender-based belief of service and leadership, not complementarianism. As you know, we have taught and practiced the belief that women and men can indiscriminately preach, teach, lead, or serve based on gifts, ability, and willingness rather than gender. The Elder Service Committee told us they feel that our presence as part of the ICOC is a stumbling block to some. There's that some again. Those random people who we don't know, who don't exist, who we've never met. These people who just have an issue. So strange. Who are these people? Who are they, guys? A stumbling block to some, and it's interfering with our ability to find a way to have unity without uniformity. Like this sentence, I've read it so many times, it makes no sense. Because it doesn't make sense. It's that weaponized incompetence. You're a problem. We don't know how to tell you that simply the problem is you're threatening our power. They don't know how to say it. They emphasize, though, that they believe we are saved disciples. Well, if you think they are saved disciples, what's the point of removing them from your list of churches then? And nobody in this congregation stopped to think about this because they don't care. It's a group of just liars. Anyway. But we are saved disciples, but not included in the cooperating family of churches, which they have now defined as exclusively teaching complementarianism. I thought this church was all about just saving the world, saving souls. The truth. I thought they were just all about the truth and saving souls. But you're going to remove an entire church because they have successfully achieved what you were pretending to move toward? Wow. They do consider us to be in their restoration family of churches, though. Then what is the point of this? They said this is not a disfellowshipping or a marking of any kind. They were clear that Portland church members are welcome to fellowship at all ICOC events such as elders retreats, teen camp, campus and singles events, and all conferences. For our members, there should be little to no change in daily life, events, or relationships. Then why are you removing them? This makes no sense. You're literally acknowledging that there is not an actual problem with what they are doing. What is happening? We look forward to many open-ended conversations filled with love. It's not going to happen, Johnsons, and hope as we continue to study and strive to grow in our understanding of Jesus's dream for his church. Let us make it our goal to please him. Now, this just happened last year, so this isn't old either. So this is, like I said, ICOC likes to play in people's faces. They love it. It's what they specialize in. I really want people to understand that this is a tactic. I'm so sorry that I'm taking y'all down the Asha rabbit hole, but I just have to do it. So they specialize in playing with your emotions in mind Fs. And a big tool they use is doublespeak. They said, they will be removed from the family of churches. They are a stumbling block to some who want unity without conformity, whatever that means. They are not included in the cooperating family of churches. Then they said they are considered part of the family of restoration churches. They are not being disfellowshipped. They are welcome to fellowship with all of ICOC. Do y'all see the double speak, how they are saying two things at the same time? They do this on purpose to keep you complacent, to keep you compliant, so that they can keep emptying your pockets. This is why they pretended to have a task force. They pretended to care about racial issues. They would rather play these games and keep you there and keep funneling money out of your home into theirs than to just say, we don't do that. But they play these games all the time. Okay. There is little to no change of daily life events or relationship. Then what is the point of removing a whole church? Because they did remove them. Like, this whole right side of the screen is all lies. It's all lies. It's lies so that people wouldn't be in an uproar, because they want to keep you lining their pockets. But guess what, guys? Good news. After this whole thing of they're still our family, they still say they still going to come to all the events. So this was January 2023. Okay, so last year, because I'm still thinking it's 2024. So technically 2 years, This right here. This post came out 3 months after they said all this crap. 3 months after they said all this crap. They said, good news. There's a new church in Portland, y'all. A new church planning. This is so amazing. Out of nowhere. And I know it was out of nowhere because I went through the comments, okay? So here goes some of the comments. People are like, did we plan a new church in Portland even though Steve and Lisa are already leading an ICOC there? And then somebody says, Steve and Lisa were removed from ICOC. Like many of us, they believed biblically women can preach and are practicing that. A large number of us support their work still, including some ICOC elders, evangelists, teachers, deacons, and many members. Unfortunately, the belief was there needed to be uniformity to please some vocal members. Nobody knows who they are. We know who they are. It's the people at the top whose power was being threatened. But okay, in order to have unity, all right, many of us believe there can be unity without uniformity to allow for differences in understanding of biblical teachings and biblical history. And the move to remove the Portland church was very, very disappointing. People were like, what is going on? Uh-oh, is that the end of my slides? I had some more posts. People continue. The whole Facebook post was full of people saying, what is going on? This is sad. I'm disappointed. What difference is this compared to when Kip McKean started a whole new church. And guess what they did, y'all? They cut the comments off. They just cut off the comments. Did not answer anybody, and everybody moved on. And everybody moved on. This is what they do. They love to do this. It's their favorite tool in the entire world. And people are eating it up every single day. Eating it up every single day. They have no shame. They are liars. You saw the whole thing was documented. And Nikita actually found the actual letter from the elders of Portland. And that's what she posted on her Facebook. And she got accosted in person, face to face, by an evangelist here who told her, take that shit down. And she said no. And they were like, you don't understand the problem that church has been for years. I thought putting that up on Facebook was a very provocative move, like kind of how dare you? And Nikita, I think she shared this in our very first video too. She said she just started to shake. She started shaking because she hadn't experienced that before. They were putting their foot down. People had crossed over that threshold and they were like, oh, hell no. You're threatening our power. And this is what they do. They are completely evil. But I do also want to point out, this is what makes it so hard for people to leave, because they are masters at playing these games. And people are just kind of like, their minds are like scrambled eggs up in this place. My friend who I talked about, whose church brought back midweeks and did lessons on communication. When I pointed this out to her, she said, yeah, but things are going better. They're changing. There's a lady in Hawaii who's been appointed as a leader. So you see how they're still playing the games? I just was like, hey, they kicked out a whole church. A whole church. One day, your sisters and brothers woke up and found out they were no longer a part of your whole church. They were no longer a part of ICOC. Can you imagine how devastating that had to be for them? This is an organization that grooms and brainwashes everyone into thinking they are the one true movement. They are God's only people. They are God's only hope for salvation. And then one day they woke up and realized they were no longer a whole church. This just happened January 2023. And you're telling me that you're hopeful because one lady in Hawaii that you don't know if is real or not was appointed a teacher. And if she is appointed a teacher, she's going to teach just the women. You are not moving toward progress. The progress that y'all pretended to move toward actually happened. It actually already happened. It actually was successful. People were encouraged and they kicked out a whole church. And you're telling me that you're hopeful because one woman in Hawaii was appointed a teacher. Why did they even appoint her if this is how they really feel? You know why? To play with you, to keep you complacent, to make you think once again that they are moving towards some progress. They never will. This is a whole church. Nobody said anything. And this is how everyone in this church, this was my proof to understand that everyone in this organization, none of them actually believe anything they say. They talk about how they want to love God. They want people to be saved. That's the most important thing to them. They want to bring everyone together. We got to stay unified. That's Satan's biggest scheme, is to disunify God's church. And then they said, that church gone. And everybody was like, okay. Okay. Because you don't believe in anything you say. You're all frauds up in that place. Frauds. You lost a whole church of your sisters and brothers and they replanted like they didn't exist. And you said nothing. Because you don't believe anything you say. You are a cult. You're just a cult. And there are people bleeding you dry every single day and living off of the money you go out and earn, living off of your hopes and dreams, benefiting from your freedom, taking your autonomy, got you cleaning their house. You have a whole church that just got kicked out, and y'all said, okay. A few people spoke up in that Facebook post, but when they cut them comments off, they ain't say another word. This is that church. And so this is any issue they face. That's what happened with the Unity Task Force. And they still playing with these people. And they will never stop, because this is where they get their significance. This is how they send their children to colleges that your children can't go to. This is how their children travel the world, on mission teams and are a part of mathletes and getting trophies and driving around in new cars that your kids can't afford because you're giving all your money to their church because they playing with you. So anyway, that's how I feel about that. All right, I'm done.
I mean, I low-key crashed out on here earlier, so I don't know if I want to really rev up again. I've been replaying that in my head. Nikita, did you just yell on the internet? You should rot. Like,
I just wanted to elaborate more on why they should rot. So yeah. So that's, nothing is real in that place, y'all. Nothing's real. The only thing real is the power and money that the people at the top enjoy by not giving a F about you. So.
And I think that's what so while listening to you, I went from like laughing to outrage to wanting to weep to then wanting to do the outraged weeping, I feel like if you know, you know. And especially at the end where you were like, and that's how they can do this. This is why their kids get this while your kids have to sell hot dogs just to make it to their indoctrination camp. And it's because they play in your face. And I think that is the thing that upsets me, like on a grander scheme, is that like, I know in leaders meetings and at conferences and things like that, we're just pawns, we're members, we're congregations. But when you bring it down, these are real people's lives. These are real people's kids. I think back to the live stream that I did with the people who grew up in the teen ministry and hearing the trauma that they carry with them now and how people turn their back on them, or like these are real people's lives. That was a real young man who said he watched his parents bleed everything into the ministry, and then when they were on a hard time, to be told by the leaders, you and all of your kids should just go live in a shelter. But you get to go on trips and eat all these meals on the church's dime, which is actually, oh wait, our money, because you have guilted us into tithing so much. There are people who had liens on their homes, but they made sure that they can give 14 plus times their usual weekly tithe in order to give the special contribution. These are real people's lives. And I just think in the moments where that becomes clearer to me again, it just makes me want to break things.
Yeah, absolutely. You're treating people like they're nothing to benefit your bottom line. Who do you think you are? And yeah, I don't know if I should say that. I'm getting to the point now, though. We have so much information. We have so many tools. I'm just so tired of the people continuing to support these narcissists, these sociopaths, these psychopaths. These people have no power unless you continue to support what they're doing. But at the same time, I understand brainwashing. But we have article after article of them covering over sexual abuse of children. There just came out Douglas Jacoby's wife talking about decades of one of the top people, Doug Arthur, and how all the other top people covered over all of his abuse of young women. This is what these people have been doing while you have been being faithful and giving them your money. They've been protecting these people at the top while disfellowshipping your friends for consensual relationships, while making you feel like a coward because you didn't share your faith at the doctor's office, while they cover up abuse of these people. Get out of this place. You know, it's so interesting. We'll probably do a video about this, but Nikita made me watch this movie called Blink Twice.
Don't say too much, because we should do a video about it. Don't say too
Yeah,
much.
I'm not gonna say anything. Oh my God. We're gonna do a video about it, but it's so much to that movie. Yeah.
I remember that scripture. Is it Proverbs something 11 or Proverbs 11 something 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one used to
something
be
they
weird
would
in
say
my
to you.
brain. As a fool returns to his folly, so a dog returns to its vomit.
Yeah.
You were a dog.
So he said this to you while he was hiding the actual abuse of his friend Doug Arthur.
And against his own wife.
Yeah. Against his own wife. Come on, man. Like, there should be a TV show called I Want to Fight My Past Preacher. And we just show up and just go crazy, yo. We got to go crazy. I dream about that. A reality show is legal. Just let me in the ring. Or like maybe a roller derby where I just skate up on somebody and knock them up against the wall. Like, it's got to be legal, though. You know what I'm saying? If we could get Netflix to agree, they would come because they're money hungry. You know what I'm saying? We should show up to this. If I show up,
they escort us out.
If I show up to that Women's Day, Erica, I'm going to be flipping over all of their casserole trays. I'm going to be knocking stuff over. I'm going to be pulling down all those balloons. I'm going to go crazy.
If we acted like we wanted to repent, do you think they would believe us?
They would, because they're that arrogant. They are that arrogant.
Really missed being with the women, and we thought this would be a great way to come. We miss community. Faith comes from hearing the word, and we just want to hear the word with the women.
Ooh.
Gosh, I can't. My face.
They're predictable and they're arrogant. So a bunch of I told Nikita this already, a bunch of previous leaders who were really close with me and Odell got together for one leader's birthday. And of course we weren't invited.
Why?
Even though I was this couple's, me and Odell were this couple's, you know, godchildren to their parents at one point, like legally, in a will and everything. But you know, we left the church, so we don't exist anymore. But I was looking at the pictures and at the videos, and I was like, I bet they're gonna be talking about us. I bet Odell gonna get a call by the end of the week. He sure did. You know. How you doing, bro? And Odell came and he said, hey, such and such called me. I said, I knew it. I win. They're predictable. If we show up to that Women's Day, they're gonna open us a welcome. You know, it's gonna be, you know, welcome back. But if I walk in, I'm going to black out and start just tearing the place up. So I can't do that.
They wouldn't even let me in. My Capricorn rising face. I couldn't fake it.
They'll let me in. I'll come in all smiley and giggly.
You would. You'd be so good at it. You'd be so good at it. I have to excuse myself because I'd probably be like the heavy sighing and also laughter.
Oh my God. And I don't mind it. I don't.
Somebody needs to go and record things and record interactions.
Yeah.
Like the sermon, but then also the hugs. How have you been? Oh, we're having a get together at my place. If you want to come. Oh, and then you have to say, I've been thinking about restudying the Bible. Really? We should get together. Like, oh, that would be so juicy. I tried to go to a baby shower. Let me put this up. I tried to go to a baby shower for someone after having left over 3 years, and I was like, it's time to go. Yeah. Yeah. Even a baby shower. Like, it have to be like, can I just bring you your gift in private? Can you and I just have lunch and I'll bring you your gift? Please don't make me go to that place.
So one of me and Nikita's close friends actually did have a baby shower. She has left, but still a lot of people she's close with are still there. So when me and Nikita came, it was a lot of people from church. And when I showed up, Nikita was just sitting there like, we were sitting there like,
that obvious? Because I didn't know that we're going to be there because she had left. And I think I wasn't prepared. And then even the lady of the house, the lady of the house did not greet me, walked right past me several times, did not greet me. Then somebody else whose child, I'm not even going to, whatever. I know this lady. She did not greet me, not till Asha comes. And Asha's talking to me. Then all of a sudden I exist. That's okay.
Because you walked in with Capricorn rising face, like what? Like the way you were sitting there, I was like, oh no. So I walked in, I was like, because I'ma still do that because that's who I am. And then they were like, oh hi, and I just was like, this is hilarious. But I totally saw you. I mean, it was that uncomfortable. It was a real sincere way of sitting there. And same, I was walking in behind a sister at the church, and right behind her, she did not turn around and say hi. She saw me coming. So I can imagine that it was the same for you. Yeah.
I mean, it was fine by the time we left, but that annoyed me too because I'm like, oh, now y'all see me? That's fine. But we're there to celebrate our friend, to celebrate the baby.
Yes.
I don't like drama, okay? I don't. And people... even in the task force, to take it back to the task force, one of the ladies who I think was Asha's discipler at the time, I said something and I was like, I'm actually a very non-confrontational person. She said, really? Not too much. Not too much. I'm not. How you think I've been here so long, got pregnant, had a baby, and let all these people talk to me crazy like this? But I didn't say that. I was like, I'm actually a very non-confrontational person. Really, I don't believe that. And it's just because when I've had enough, and I wasn't even rude. I don't even know. Whatever. So people think, and because I get on here and I'm vocal or whatever, but this is my platform. If you have something to say, you can come to me. And I actually tried talking to y'all. And that's, if you go back to our first 1 or 2 videos, Asha and I say, don't anymore. Don't. Because we've tried to talk to you. We've been talking to you guys for years on different levels, and you've been playing in our faces, as we said earlier. So no, I don't want to hear it because it's a bunch of time wasting. So we don't want to do it anymore. But I tried talking and I tried, y'all, there were tears. There were tears. So also, for anybody who cares or knows what this means, I'm a Cancer sun and Cancer moon. And Cancers are very like softies. Hard exoskeleton, but mushy and sentimental crybabies is like the stereotype. But the thing is, once we have given you 5 million chances too many, then you get the claws. but it's self-preservation. So I have literally, it's embarrassing to think back how I have cried in front of these people, begging them to treat me with decency and saying they hurt my feelings. Read this, look at this. I didn't even do anything, but you want to play in my face and act like I'm the villain? Well, let's be that then. Let's be that then. And I'm not even coming to you. You don't have to watch this channel. And if you want to, go start your own channel. Go do the Nikita's a Big Fat Liar victim channel. That's fine. And I could probably write the script for you because that's the narrative you all gave me forever. I could write your episodes for you and point it out for you. But I would just like to say that. I would just like to say that is, I mean, so it's just awkward and it's hurt. I don't know what else to say.
That's them. That's them. You know?
And there should be a show about ICOC on TV and ex-ICOC people. And I nominate us, to be honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, man.
People be acting like you killed someone and just got out of prison. Yes. Even people who leave and don't speak out publicly, you just leave, and then if you come back and it's like,
I didn't realize how funny I thought. I didn't realize that I would think it was so funny as I did, because even that same friend invited me to her son's birthday. Of course, I brought my kids, and I noticed everything. I walked in and everybody's like, and I was like, oh my God, I've done that to people. Y'all doing that to me? The uncomfortable high. And I just started laughing because it's hilarious. So I'm a Sagittarius moon, okay? So I think everything is hilarious sometimes. And I just want to make a joke sometimes. Sometimes I'm very serious because I'm a Capricorn. That's why I'm so depressed and need a psychiatrist. But then that Sagittarius come out sometimes and I just be like, y'all are stupid. And then I just laugh. So yeah, I think it's hilarious the way people act like you just got out of jail. Sometimes I want to know, what are y'all saying about me? Send me a letter.
I actually don't like knowing. And people like to tell me, because it's often people who will then stick up for us, or they just come and tell us everything, which is great. It's great for material. But again, I'm a softie. So it's like, even though I know that that's what they think of me, it's still hard to hear that even recently people are like, oh, it's like Nikita laughed and then went crazy. She went crazy. Now she's talking about her divorce and that she's just bitter and she seems unhinged.
And it is so surprising because, Nikita owns that. You can tell in her content, she kind of owns that. Like, do what you want, especially her last video with her and Kat. Y'all got to go watch that, But then when she hears somebody says it, she get like, what?
It's like, I just like to put it out there and pretend it doesn't exist. What do you mean I seem crazy? And then I'm on the internet like, and then they're like, Nikita, what is Nikita? What are you talking about? I'm so demure and discreet. And I'm on the internet like, rot.
Exactly. So it is hilarious that she'd be like, oh, and I'm like, girl, forget them, but it's just funny. I did notice that. Mm-hmm.
There we go. I remember the first time, I don't think we started our videos yet. I can't remember if it was before or after. It was close though. It was the first time we ever hung out on our own as friends, and we got sushi and we got pedicures, and I made a little video and I put it on Instagram, and I typed out this long caption. And in that caption, I said something about the church being a narcissistic organization.
Oh,
yeah, I remember somewhere in there. But in my head, granted, I had almost 20,000 followers at the time. It's not near there. I think I've bored people and I'm not consistent, and that's fine. Whatever. But at that time, I had close to or over 20,000 followers on Instagram. But I'm not thinking anybody's gonna, like, the algorithm's weird and nobody reads everything. Who reads paragraphs on Instagram? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's like I make content, but then I get surprised when people actually look at it.
You do.
Still, I do. I don't know if that's imposter syndrome. I don't know what it is. But and so my ex gets and we're still, very married at the time and living together. My ex gets a call or a text from a leader at that time. And it's like, bro, are you okay? You and the kid have posted about the church. Oh yeah, man. How are things? And then that was a moment of shock. And even my ex laughed at me because I was like, he saw that? And he was like, Nikita, you put it on Instagram. And you do know, because you speak out, like, people look at what you say. Yes. And in my head, I'm like, well, my engagement don't show that. They don't like nothing. They don't comment. They don't repost, which I guess especially the lurkers, they wouldn't. And so if I'm posting and the numbers, I just think it's not getting reach. But I guess, you just have lots of lurkers. But even that, yes. And I had to realize, like, which I still haven't learned the lesson, but I remember him laughing, like, why do you get surprised? You put it out.
Yep. Yep.
Is it a mental illness? I don't understand what the disconnect is for me. Oh, even so, let's see, my ex, we don't talk much at all in general, but the last time I heard of him watching anything on my channel, it was when I did like a live react to something back in the fall, the fall, I don't remember. And he texted me, he's like, oh, I just watched this. That was crazy how he told his family not to eat so they could pay tithe. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So he's on here. But it's been forever. And, things happen. We're in the process of getting divorced. Have I pissed him off? Have I annoyed him? Is he sick of seeing my face? I don't know. We don't talk about it. I don't know. So do I show up on his algorithm or not? Has he unfollowed me or not? I don't know. Anyway, a couple weeks ago, I posted a little video about things I've learned about myself since getting divorced and things and I was showing cute little things that I've bought that I wouldn't own if we were still married. And he commented on it. And I was like, okay, cool.
He's like, here's your engagement. No.
And so I never post anything that I feel I would need to be ashamed of.
Right.
And I try to be careful. It's like a careful unhinged, and there was nothing. And I always think, like, would I be okay with my son seeing this? Would I be okay with my ex, with anybody seeing it? Like, can I say this with my whole chest? So I didn't feel like, oh no, you weren't supposed to see that. And in my head, I'm like, he might still be subscribed since he saw that other video. I don't know. But just the fact that he hasn't said anything and then all of a sudden shows up there on that video.
On that video.
Talking about, I learned all this stuff about myself. But it was funny. I have a beautiful sparkly pink and gold peacock. And he was like, yeah, LOL, I definitely would have dreaded seeing that around the house. And I was like, believe me, I know.
And you were so excited about that. You were like, oh.
I love it so much. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get her.
And as you can see, I have this fake plant. That's what I have in my house. That's about it.
Here she is.
It's so cool.
She is so cool. And she doesn't have a name. If you watch the other video, I tell you why I think she doesn't have a name. I'm not going to tell you because I'm doing a shameless plug.
This is the difference between me and Nikita's aesthetic. That's it.
Oh gosh, well, this has gone another direction.
Yeah. Now we just up here hanging out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Asha, because I've told the crowd, I hope I don't get canceled. I don't think I'm famous enough to get canceled yet. but they'll find it. They'll find it in 3 years when I'm mega famous and then be like, cancel her.
Yeah.
Because you probably saw where I told everybody that bullying works and they should bully you. So we get that video. But then I followed up and I said, but don't bully other people. Don't bully other people except for Asha, because bullying's serious. So I acknowledge that bullying is serious and it's not okay. But also, if you want, I can tell you Asha's email address so you can spam her.
My email address for what? To bully me about making that video.
Yeah, but honestly, that would probably backfire. She probably just gets so overwhelmed and depressed that she couldn't do it. So
exactly, I'm gonna make it because I did the whole patriarchy part here. I can just jump into it. I don't need to talk that much about it. It speaks for itself, But I wanted to explain that whole patriarchy piece, like I think I told y'all how one of the things my husband said to me as soon as we left the church is like, oh my God, I am so happy that I just get to enjoy just being in a relationship with you instead of worrying about you trying to overthrow the kingdom, worrying about if I'm still leading right. Am I listening to you too much? And that lesson, and when he said that out loud, it made so much of our relationship make sense. And then when I listened to that lesson, I'm like, this is the messaging he was receiving all these years of our marriage and how it impacted us. And again, Odell is like one of the nicest people on the planet, but that still has such a huge impact on us. And it made me spiral. Because it's like so much just gets illuminated every week. Every week, something else comes from the back of my brain to the front. Like in that movie Inside Out, the second one, how they kept throwing the marbles into the back of the brain, And then, in one part of the movie that it just breaks and all those marbles came to the frontal cortex. And that person's identity literally started changing. That's me, like on a weekly basis. Yeah. Maybe every 3 days sometimes. So yeah, and that lesson released a lot of marbles. I lost my marble.
It all makes sense now.
So yeah.
That phrase. Yeah, it's a lot.
But I can do it now. I needed to understand the patriarchy more. And why, like Nikita says, are people playing with our lives? Why are people just playing with our lives like this? And you got to understand that there are some people who just truly are evil. People don't like to believe that, but it's just true. There are people who will watch you deteriorate so that they can benefit financially, egotistically, sexually. That's all cult leaders want. They do not care who they hurt.
And I saw this YouTube video earlier this week. There was some lady who is a therapist, but also a sociopath. And she talks about being a sociopath from living it and also everything that she's learned and can practice and things like that. Because Asha does. Asha's good at calling someone a sociopath. I don't think she's misusing it. Or over labeling. I think, unfortunately, in our lives, we have known a lot of them. And I think, and I'm sure, oh gosh, I can't recall like what we've said on live stream and what we've just said in our personal interactions. So forgive me if you guys have heard this, but that to be in a cult, you either have to be a narcissist or a sociopath, or you have to have been kind of raised by one or greatly influenced by one. And so you're used to being treated that way. And so those people come together and coexist in a cult. And so this lady, as she was talking, because you were saying, oh, people don't like to believe that someone's evil or that they enjoy this, but she literally said she has this memory of being a small child. And I think a peer of hers was annoying her, upsetting her, something. And she took her pencil and she stabbed her with it. And she said she knew it was wrong, either when she did it or right after she did it. but she didn't feel bad. She said she felt a sense of satisfaction and joy, not from hurting someone. She said it didn't come from hurting someone. She knew that was bad, but she couldn't feel bad. She felt satisfaction at being destructive. And so then as she aged and became a teenager, she was like, some people microdose drugs. She said, I call it microdosing mischief. And so
Wow.
one night as a teenager, she was walking home from a sleepover in the middle of the night. She was like, I know it's strange. One of her neighbors' garage door was open overnight. And she went and she sat in their car and she felt this joy at being somewhere that she shouldn't have been. Then it escalated into going into people's houses. And she said it didn't matter. Was it a big house? Was it a small house? Was it occupied? Was it empty? She said, obviously, eventually she leaned toward empty houses for obvious reasons. Girl, it was crazy. But she said she did that to manage the desire so she wouldn't hurt people or do something more damaging.
Mm.
And so, what is going on?
Oh, we both hit it.
How my discipler felt when she broke into my house. That is crazy. We will unpack that in a second. This is insane. I can't even.
That story pissed me off so much.
But
yes.
Okay, focus. But she said she was microdosing mischief so that she wouldn't have another episode where she harmed somebody. And I think maybe I didn't finish listening to it. I got distracted. Surprise, surprise. If you know me, that's not surprising. But so I need to go back and finish listening. But I wanted to understand more because Asha does talk about this and knowing things, actually researching a diagnosis or a term is helpful to know how to navigate the world and interact with people. And just seeing that her, who is a licensed mental health worker, and just seeing they do get joy. And because she's not inherently evil and she realizes that this is wrong, that I guess she finds other ways to kind of manage it instead of hurting people. But there has to be an extreme level of self-awareness and work and all of that. And these people who get to sit on these king and queen thrones, who realize that by gaslighting, by oppressing, by manipulating, by taking advantage of, that it elevates them and they get whatever type of euphoria, satisfaction. Like that's an actual thing where she said she felt like joy and satisfaction from destruction. There are people who get off on ruining things and people.
Yeah. I mean, and you've seen it in these cult leaders. You saw it during a lot of the Bible studies. That's why we always had to bring a leader in. Even though they tell us we're all disciples and we're all responsible, a leader always came in and their job was to break the person. They were there to see the tears. They were there to see that moment where their psyche got damaged or their sense of self broke. And that they wouldn't leave until they experienced that and the joy they had when it finally happened. And if you were a person who didn't break, you just didn't get baptized, but they loved, you could see it in their faces. They loved it. It's so funny. So,
Fun.
Matthew Walpert has a YouTube channel and he did a whole series with this guy. I can't think of his name, but he was one of the OG evangelists. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Sorry, I just saw Erica's. There are stories. Okay. Stories. All right. But this guy, I can't remember his name for whatever reason is lost on me, but he was one of the OG people who was a part of Kip McKean's very first church when it was actually led by the other guy who was a PDF file, and he was saying, there he is, Kip McKean. And he was saying how back then they were still like partnering with other churches and stuff or other they brought in other influential ministers as guest preachers during that time. And this guy who did the interview with Matthew said that he remembers one guy walking up and saying, they were walking up and saying, "Thank you so much for coming to be a guest speaker at our church." I think this was probably other preachers who are part of ICOC. Sorry, COC, the Traditional Church of Christ. And this guy told him, "I love coming to y'all church and preaching. It's amazing. I don't know how y'all do it, but like when I come here to preach, I just feel so powerful. I just feel amazing." James Lloyd. Okay, thank you. James, that's his name. James said that this guy told him, "I just feel so powerful. Like at my church, nobody wants to sit up front. Everybody's sitting in the back. People are leaving right after service is over, blah, blah, blah. When I come here, everybody sits in the front row. Everybody walks up to me afterwards and they're just telling me how great my lesson was." It's because we were broken. We're a bunch of broken people who are taught to idolize any person in authority in this organization. But he was like, "I don't know how y'all do it here," because we were all broken by a bunch of sociopaths. That's how. And when I listened to that part, I had to stop listening to that video because it just made me very sad, you know. It just really pointed out how abnormal it was. So here's another guy who's actually someone who went to seminary school, an actual educated preacher with a history of a real career. And he's like, "This is different," because he doesn't even experience anything like that because it's not normal to behave that way, you know, but they broke us. So yeah. And it's an ongoing breaking. I don't know, that's probably not a word, but it's continual.
That could
It's
be the name of
continual.
like if it was a horror documentary, The Breaking.
The breaking.
Not even the breaking, The Breaking. That's how that.
That's a good title, you know. Somebody need to make something with that. That's what was happening there.
Oh, well, I don't have anything else.
Yeah.
This was fun. It was good to be back.
Thanks for hanging out with us, y'all.
Unless we tell you we're not coming back, we'll be back.
Eventually, you know.
The forthcoming ICOC documentary, The Breaking. Yeah. Love it. Actually, we should. That would be so fun to be a very slow passion project for us to just make, like release as an independent film.
Yes.
It'll come out in 2030.
Definitely 2030.
That would be so fun. You know, find have enough storage. So y'all don't want to put out no documentary, put out our own documentary.
The Breaking.
The Breaking. Everybody who wants to talk can talk. We don't care.
Yeah. Everybody.
Just
send in a video clip.
Send in a clip. We'll find a way to splice it in, you know? We'll find the hide your wife, hide your kids guy. Get him on there.
Yeah.
Ask a stranger, what do you think about cults? Just randomness. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Unless we say we're not coming back, we'll be back. I think so many people over the last couple of years, when we go into this lull or we take a while to come back, they're like, "Are you guys done? Are you going to make any more videos?" We will be back. It's hard to sync our, yes, girl, you get credit and cash, okay?
That's right.
People's people, girls, girl. We all getting out the hood. Or we in the trauma hood. Yeah, just trying to sync work schedules, kid stuff, depressive episodes,
perfectionism,
menstrual cycles, job stuff, everything. It's a lot. Losing my religion channel.
So yeah, I haven't seen many new videos, huh?
Is that the channel that had the lawyer coming against them? Or no, that was ICOC Shenanigans.
That's the same person.
Oh, so that's the same person. Why. Did you hear that? I think it was one of the leaders in the New York church is also a lawyer or something. and was he coming after her for like copyright something, because she was using, I guess, their video. I don't even know. I just saw she was making some posts about it where you can put posts.
Wow.
I wonder if that's why she's been quiet.
I've seen her post, on her Facebook, not videos, but just actively still posting about church stuff on Facebook, but they can't come after her for copyright.
I don't know. I don't know all the details of what was said.
I mean, I think
Yeah,
it's because with commentary channels, you got to have a certain percentage of commentary. I think some of her videos were more so just playing it and adding in GIFs. Maybe that's how they did that.
I know Dave Ramsey had his stuff on lockdown. I did a video talking about why he was culty, and I didn't even think my clips were that long, but I mean, it didn't get taken down, but it can't be monetized.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, Dave, what? Okay.
Oh,
If
if she fights, she gotta
give up all her info. Oh, and she likes being anonymous.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I get it. The lawyer is saying we need to know who our accuser is or something like that. I'm gonna reach out to her.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate. And that's the type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's scary. And Shell Rowland, who's doing the lawsuits, hasn't she received like threats against her life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, she said.
So it's just a certifiable cult, guys.
Absolutely.
Like, it just really is. So hopefully we can remain standing. We got to be smart. Somebody commented on an old video recently asking, like, if this is all true, why did you have to bleep the names out? Is the video I did about dating with Rich from Atlanta. And it's like, we just want to be, one, we want to be respectful and considerate of people who may come to their senses later. But then also, two, this type of stuff can happen. So, and I'd rather have a video with censored things than wind up having to completely take a video down. So, well, with that, stay safe and stay free, because every day is a good day to not be in a cult. Till next time. Bye, guys.
Thank y'all for joining us. See y'all later.